We're now joined by Dr Kirsty Bennett of Leeds Beckett University to speak about the psychology of why the media and the public hone in on certain cases and why so many others get ignored. Generally, what is the relationship between the police and the media in cases such as these?
So sometimes the police aren't overly receptive to media involvement. The police have to protect certain information about the case to not jeopardise future interviews, to hold back things when they're speaking to suspects. But the media, they want to beat their competitors. They want to have information about the case that nobody else does to make sure that they can tell the public and it gets it out there. So it can cause a bit of upset and tension. When you advertise a case and you're looking for people to come forward, you might have people who come forward with malicious intent. You might then have people who are trying to help and trying to make a difference, but it misdirects the investigation in some way.
So these are people who are empathetic. The media appeal works in the sense that you create that connection to what has happened, but in fact, that kind of empathy can have negative consequences.
Absolutely, and I don't think you should ever discourage people from coming forward, because particularly with cold cases, you're looking for those bits of corroboration.
Are there downsides, though, for this relationship in relation to the families of the victims? Will the media pick up on salacious detail that they'll want to emphasize because they believe that's a hook into the public's imagination?
Absolutely, and it is something that must be really carefully managed. So the police have this kind of holding statement where if a murder occurs, they'll give you brief bits of information and they'll release that. The media then jump on that and try and get the information. They'll find the address, and that can be traumatic in itself. The family don't feel protected. They don't feel that they've necessarily been respected in terms of their privacy, but also how their loved one's been presented. But for cold cases, families are very aware that they need people to come forward. They need to remind people that their loved one's case is unsolved or they haven't been found. So they'll kind of put that aside to work with the media to get information to try and help progress their loved one's case as much as they can.
Why do some cases get chosen for public appeals, and the vast majority of cases we rarely hear about, or indeed we've never heard about at all?
I think murder's quite a notable event, so we might have a brief reference in local newspapers, but it's only a few cases that make national, sustained coverage. And the reason for that is, what do the media think is going to sell the papers? Who are the public going to feel emotive towards? And it really comes down to that whole ideal victim.
Let's also break down this criminological term that we've used, which is the ideal victim.
So typically the ideal victim is a young female, children, maybe even elderly. So people who we see as very vulnerable, who can't necessarily protect themselves, they're being targeted. And we can link that with the type of offender that we're thinking of as well, of this bad, dangerous, untoward person who's viciously targeted somebody who is quite defenseless, that we really feel sympathy towards. That's how we would classify our ideal victim.